All right. Welcome back to another episode of Injustice for All with Judge Joe Brown. How you doing, Judge?
I'll manage. It's an interesting day. It's sunshine and there's a break between some bad weather and some worse weather. I think we're about to get a winter storm here.
Yeah, it's going to be coming from Texas up through up through Tennessee and Andover and
Well,
Louisiana.
there's a low pressure area. And you've got, well, the other way around, and you've got an Arctic chill coming in from north. So it's hitting here. It ought to be bad. Rain turning to sleet and then snow.
Yeah, so people need to be careful. Well, speaking of a storm, this was breaking news. So, FBI Homeland Security arrests 3 protesters who disrupted the Minneapolis church service. I want to share this because Pam Bondi finally doing her job. So this is
It's
Pam
not so
Bondi.
much finally doing it. It's just that this is an easy case. You got everything laid out there graphically in the video. The type of offense is not one that requires a lot of investigation other than to get the names right. So they're going very quickly after these people, and it's a matter of public order. There are some
So it
things that
says
will require more investigation for other matters, but yeah, go ahead.
So it says that Minnesota, minutes ago, at my direction, HSI headquarters, FBI agents executed an arrest in Minnesota. So far, we have arrested Nakima Livy Armstrong, who allegedly played a key role in organizing a coordinated attack on City Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. We will share more updates as they become available. Listen loud and clear. We do not tolerate attacks on places of worship. This is her, the person they arrested, Nakima Armstrong, on CNN prior to her arrest.
And I do want to correct something that was said in the beginning. We did not rush into that church. We actually went and sat down and participated in the service. And after the pastor prayed, that is when I stood up and asked him a question in response to his prayer. And then he responded to me. And then I proceeded to ask him about Pastor David Easterwood and how is it possible for him to serve as both the pastor and the director of ICE for Minnesota. And instead of responding to me, as soon as I said the name David Easterwood, the pastor says, "Shame, shame." And that is when I led us in chants, "Justice for Renee Good" and "Hands Up, Don't Shoot." So I want to clarify that. We didn't rush in. We didn't bust in. We were a part of the service until I got up and posed that question to the pastor.
All right. And obviously, I'm not going to dispute your saying what happened. I'm merely describing how CNN is describing it. I obviously wasn't in the room.
And I do.
Okay, stop a second. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and may be used in evidence against you. She made a statement. It's recorded. They can play this for a jury. She doesn't realize it. She's trying to excuse it, but she is essentially confessing to the criminal act. And it's not a good one. This is state and federal. They're intentionally, the generic category would be disruption or interference with a public assembly, or it modifies into places of worship, political proceeding, governmental proceeding type thing. But basically, you come in and you say you've been planning, you ran your mouth off. They can put this in evidence, and you can say, "No, I was just, no, well, this is what you said." So, I mean, it's like Fannie down in Atlanta building a good case against herself. But in her situation, she ought to know better. And then the other thing, too, is you get into United States Code 8, Section 111, dealing with interference with ICE and other federal agencies and agents. And then you get into 8, Section 1324 with setting up sanctuary cities and giving aid and comfort, etc., to illegal aliens. And that statute specifically says official status is no defense. So it's interesting that these people are jumping up to take credit for committing crimes. They're proud of it, but you see the difference between what they are apparently trying to model themselves on, the civil rights era, is those were peaceful, nonviolent demonstrations on public streets or in places open to the public, with the idea being to generate lawlessness on behalf of official agencies in their response to people exercising their First Amendment rights to peaceably gather and expressing themselves, which has always been permitted under the First Amendment. That did not include these efforts of invading private or sacred or governmental places and creating hell. That came from the late mid-60s when you got the militancy involved in the anti-war movement and the Black Power thing, where the objective was not to go in peacefully, but to generate havoc and create an intentional disturbance. That's what they're doing. That's not civil rights era. That is the militant anti-war era.
Mhm. So I want to play this clip.
And there's no protection of that either. So you cannot disrupt public order, peace, and dignity.
I want to play this clip here because this is before going into the church and Don Lemon was interviewing her.
Okay.
How are you?
Good.
To see you. We're on. We're not saying what it is, what's going on, but thank you. Tell us why you're doing this.
So
This is Nakima Levy Armstrong. She's on the show
Nakima
on
Levy
Friday.
Armstrong, civil rights attorney, longtime activist here in the community. And, we protest and do activism in all kinds of ways. This is Operation Pull Up, more of a clandestine operation. We show up somewhere that is a key location. They don't expect us to come there. And then we disrupt business as usual. So that's what we're about to go do right now. We've had a lot of success with the times we have done operations.
Stop a second. Remember my preaching over and over again about unqualified attorneys who don't know what the hell they're up to? Now, any first-year law student in an old-time law school would know that she just confessed to a crime. She says, our purpose is disruption. And they don't know we're coming.
After George Floyd was killed, we went to the Police Federation head's home and staged a demonstration there. We also went to the head of the U.S. Marshals from Minnesota after Winston Smith was killed by the U.S. Marshals. We went there after Dante Wright was killed. Okay,
and the timeout right there, you get into another one. That's 18 USC 111. See, it's like, did you go to law school? If so, where? I wouldn't recommend somebody going there because you're supposed to be an attorney and you have no clue about the Fifth Amendment. What is with you? Remember me telling you about these lawyers, and some judges have absolutely no experience with what they're supposed to be up to? Go ahead.
Yes. This is a picture of her being arrested and walked out by a federal agent as well. Now, what did come out, Don Lemon will not be charged. So a magistrate judge rejects charges against Don Lemon over
Hold on. That's a magistrate judge. That's as low on the totem pole of judiciary as you can get. So he's got higher level judges over him, and the prosecuting authority can cut all that off and go to a grand jury. See, all that happened was somebody just picked any random magistrate and went to that person to get an arrest warrant. So in other words, what they're saying is the prosecutorial authority in the area, whether it was state or federal, felt they had sufficient probable cause to arrest Don Lemon. They just picked the wrong magistrate and he refused to issue a warrant. But that doesn't mean they can't get another one who would, nor does it mean that they just can't say, well, we were trying to be nice. Let's bypass all of the preliminary hearing stuff and let's go directly to a grand jury, what we can do, and see if we get indictments. And that way, magistrate will have nothing to say about it. It's magistrate, and then you go lower level judges, a little higher level judges, a little higher level judges. You get to the courts of record, and then you go to the courts of appeal. Then you go to somebody's Supreme Court, and then this process can go all the way back through again on the federal level if this started on the state. So, no, this doesn't mean anything at all.
So
It's
it's
somebody that got probably a political appointment because he was active in a political party. He's likely not elected, and he is a subservient category to somebody's higher level court.
Well, it says the Attorney General is enraged at the magistrate's decision, said a source familiar with the matter. Attorney General Pam Bondi has been in Minnesota for 2 days as the Justice Department has sought to surge prosecutorial. Did I say that right? Prosecutorial?
Prosecutorial.
Prosec-
I'm not looking at the word, but I imagine I'm saying prosecutorial.
yes, prosecutorial.
Prosecutorial. Prosecutorial. Say it that way in your head.
Prosecutorial.
Yeah, prosecutorial.
Prosecutorial and law enforcement resources there. A different source stressed that the process is not over and the Justice Department could find other avenues to charge Lemon.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. He ain't out the picture. He just had a friend in court, so to speak. He's going to be, well, maybe his husband can put sweetener in the lemon juice to make lemonade or something, you know.
So it says Pam Bondi on X. She updated on X as well. She said a second arrest has been made at my direction. Shanti Louisa Allen has been taken into custody and more to come. Now, there have been this one particular person. He made a video. Let me share that.
By the way, just curious, why have none of these people gotten involved with all of the black on black killing in the urban areas?
Exactly. Who knows? So this is this man's message to Pam Bondi.
Yesterday, I went into a church with Nakima Armstrong and I protested these white supremacists. The pastor of the church is a fucking ICE leader in the city. As you can see, all these pretend Christians, all these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps.
So, Pam Bondi, you want to come and arrest me? You want to come and give me charges? So be it.
Yesterday,
And then she replied, okay, check.
Yeah, they're coming to get you. And fool, you just committed to an intent to commit a criminal act. And again, that's Section 18. No, excuse me. 18 United States Code, Section 111. You just committed that you were planning a violation of that, which makes it premeditated. Very nice move.
Well, what happens next with these arrests?
See if the bracelets fit. The stainless steel type that clamp on and need a key to get off.
Well, of course they're going to get bail, right? They will get bail.
Maybe.
And they're being
It depends on what his interstate connections are and whether he's held or found to be a flight risk. So he might get a high bond or no bond at all. That's the precedent that side has been setting in the system for the last 5 years, or for the last 5 years under the Biden administration, Biden-Harris administration.
And he said the Justice Department officials has said they were pursuing an investigation based upon the Freedom of access to Clinic Interest Act of 1994 Act, which covers reproductive health services, as well as places of worship under a compromise reached by legislators in the wake of several killings of abortion
You know
dogs.
what that's about? It interferes with interstate commerce, even if slightly. So the feds have the authority to regulate interstate commerce. So if you block access to reproductive health centers, places of worship, governance, or education, you tread very lightly on disruption of public order. And by the way, you have free speech rights, but those free speech rights do not embrace an intentional or reckless disruption of public order.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't count if you're peacefully on a soapbox or standing on a bench and saying what you have to say and somebody gets upset. But if your intention is to block people from moving, not by standing out of the way on the bench or on a soapbox or a raised platform, but blocking the flow of traffic, pedestrian, horse, buggy, streetcar, freeway, roadway, whatever it may be, and that's your intention to block it or your intention to disrupt, then you got outside the parameters of First Amendment protected free speech.
Well, this here is the second person that was arrested.
Just in there. We'll bring her in. She'll stand off to the side. I know this only because I just did it once.
Her name is Chantel Lewis. Now, I'm like, why is it black women?
Why are they involved in this? Well, I guess anybody can be involved in anything they want to be involved in. But strangely enough, this is not about black on black killing each other in the hoods, which is a far more pervasive and enormous problem than anything ICE is doing. Remember, why are we needful of attention to this in terms of the need to support what ICE is doing? Well, people got all upset about the Bush administration ignoring the warnings about 911 getting ready to happen. Well, the indicia are much stronger now, though our news media is not touching it with indicia or indications that there's going to be a far worse 911 as a result of foreign incursion in this country that the Biden-Harris administration was encouraging and allowing with a blind eye turned to everything that was going on. I said it every time I get a forum. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Iran, North Korea, they've been sending agents across, and these guys don't have to strap on the suicide bomb vest and blow themselves up or fly in a doomed aircraft into the Twin Towers and commit suicide. They can now, since they've had ample time to install the military grade explosives with the remote detonators and just sit back and wait until they're given the word, flip the switch, and boom, there's some interesting fireworks a couple of miles away that everybody can see at night when the target blows up. But I can guarantee you that it's going to make 911 look like a child's play.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to switch gears real quick and quickly have you touch on Jack Smith, because today was the Jack Smith hearing. And apparently it says Jack Smith investigation cost taxpayers $35 million. Targeting enemies, 65% of that $35 million paying their salaries. Jack and his team got rich for sedition. Let me just play this clip here.
when I assumed the job.
How much
I
money
was
did you, okay, how much money did you spend in the investigating President Trump? How much money did your office spend?
I do not recall as I sit here now, but I know that pursuant to, I believe it's the special counsel regulations, reports were issued each 6 months detailing how much.
We gathered at $35 million. And what I want to know is how much of that $35 million of taxpayer money did you give to confidential human sources? We know you gave $20,000 to someone. It just got reported last week. How much more money did you pay confidential people we don't know about, with American tax money going after the guy we elected president?
My recollection regards the $20,000, which was not a payment from me. It was me approving a payment by the FBI to a confidential human source who was reviewing video and photographic.
Who's the source?
Evidence. I do not know the identity of the source.
How many other payments went to this source or other sources?
As I sit here, I do not know the answer to that question. My role as special counsel,
$35 million, and you're giving money to people the country doesn't know who they are, and you're giving their hard-earned money to these folks? The main question I have, too, with this is, why'd you have to do it? You subpoenaed bank records from the RNC, phone records from members of Congress. You got subpoenas for bank records for people sitting right there on the front row. Why did you have to pay people for information when you could subpoena them and get it?
Time has expired.
Time has expired. You can answer the question, though. Country'd like to know why you had to do it.
My recollection and understanding is the payment, the $20,000 that I approved, was for a confidential human source to assist in the review of video and photographic evidence showing people who were attacking the Capitol, attacking police officers, obstructing the proceeding, and seeing if we could prove that some of those people had come directly.
That wasn't my question, but my time has expired.
Well, you know what's getting me? You notice the morph in the language, a confidential human source. You can't pay a machine. So what other kind is there? And they used to call it a confidential informant. So what is the purpose for this morph in the language that somebody has come up with that unfortunately the opposition party is embracing like it's normal and it's appropriate to use that particular terminology? It's not. The words are confidential informant. So confidential human source, what is going on here?
So
where are they going with this?
So Jack Smith was the former attorney general.
Oh, I know he was. The problem was,
I'm asking a question, and he was put in charge.
He wasn't the former attorney general. He was designated as a special prosecutor, and just like Save Tish James, temporarily, there were some problems with the particulars of his appointment to that position that didn't stack up. So this is a person with marginal legitimacy spending $35 million that belong to the public that we know about so far to engage in lawfare, supposedly because the previous president at the time, now president again, authorized what this guy and his political cronies felt was an inappropriate divulgence of American secrets, when it's clear under the Constitution, as commander-in-chief of the military, as chief diplomat for the country, and under the case of, the United States Department of Navy versus Egan, EGAN, from 1988 U.S. Supreme Court, that he had the absolute authority to do what he did. So this guy is another one of these lawyers that doesn't seem to be aware of the criminal laws of the country, or the principles that stand behind them. So he spent $35 million, known $35 million of the taxpayers' money for going after somebody with lawfare when he ought to have known that he couldn't get much to stick on the Teflon wall that he was throwing it up against to see if anything stuck. And it was actually, by any fair analysis, objective analysis, simply an element of a pogrom to discredit what was felt to be a dangerously effective political opponent who was dead set against what a lot of people, the majority of the people in the country, call a poisonous agenda.
I want to read this post that Trump posted today on Jack Smith. He says, deranged Jack Smith is being decimated before Congress. It was over when they discussed his past failures and unfair prosecutions. He destroyed many lives under the skies of legitimacy. Jack Smith is a deranged animal who shouldn't be allowed to practice law. If he were a Republican, his license would be taken away from him, and far worse. Hopefully, the Attorney General is looking at what he's done, including some of the crooked, corrupt witnesses that he was attempting to use in his case against me. The whole thing was a Democrat scam. A big price should be paid by them for what they have put our country through.
Well, you know what the main defense to that is? It's inappropriate for somebody in the public eye like the president to stoop to such base language. Well, he's telling the truth. Maybe that's what we need, is somebody who doesn't want to be nice about it. He's just in a raw fashion describing reality. The president gave a very accurate summation of what was going on. It's criminal.
I want to play this last clip here and then ask you a question about Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton.
During my tenure as special counsel, we followed Justice Department policies. We observed legal requirements and took actions based on the facts and the law. I made my decisions without regard to President Trump's political association, activities, beliefs, or candidacy in the 2024 election. President Trump was charged because the evidence established that he willfully broke the law, the very laws he took an oath to uphold. Grand juries in 2 separate districts reached this conclusion based on his actions, as alleged in the indictments they returned. Rather than accept his defeat in the 2020 election, President Trump engaged in a criminal scheme to overturn the results and prevent the lawful transfer of power. After leaving office in January of 21, President Trump illegally kept classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago social club and repeatedly tried to obstruct justice to conceal his continued retention of those documents.
Stop a second. Stop a second. By saying that, Smith is either a damn liar or too ignorant to be possessing a law license and practicing in the criminal law field. It's clear from a clear reading of the Constitution, I reiterate, that as Trump's status as commander-in-chief and chief diplomat, he had the authority, and a U.S. Supreme Court case from 1988 with multiple concurring opinions, the United Department of Navy versus Egan, E-G-A-N, that it was clear that Trump was well within his authority parameters to do what he did. Now, that he wants to mischaracterize what was clear and succinct about the facts that he dealt with, that he acknowledges as the facts, but not the legal conclusion, that's pitiful. This other thing, too, it is against law to challenge an election. That's always been a favorite pastime of politics. I think from my research over the last 230 some years, it is the third most popular topic of contention in American politics. Something's wrong with the election. Look what the Democrats themselves did with Bush v. Gore in 2000 relative to what went on in Florida. Okay, You get a lot of this. Look at what these characters are whining about right now. Jasmine Crockett about she got stripped of her district because of what the legislative body in Texas did. So you get all sorts of challenges. Look at this Defense Department. He's not defense, the Justice Department. He was supposed to be special counsel representing. January 2000, they issued an opinion saying that there were no significant cheats in the electoral situation relative to that presidential cycle. But then they turn around 2 days later, and for Shelby County / Memphis, Tennessee, they said once again, same department, there was all sorts of likely election fraud due to hacked and corrupt election machines. Now, that's the 14th largest city in the country, the last I checked. So what happens? In 2 days, you find something out that you didn't know before, and you've been working on this report for 6 months. So which is it? There was either election fraud in Memphis or there was not, or you were falsely speaking in a political fashion when you said there was none of any significance in the country for that election cycle. See, this is just what Orwell talked about in 1984, political doublespeak.
If national security information was held in a ballroom and a bathroom. As I testify before the committee today, I want to be clear.
Stop.
I stand by my decisions as special counsel.
Stop. The Secret Service of the United States had full security around Millargo at the time and around the former president. This is the same agency that is in charge of the security at the White House. Likely as not, the security was higher at Millargo than it was at the White House, and it begs to differ. What I read in the transcripts of the 3 laptops that belonged to Hunter Biden about the same kind of documents that the vice president at the time, Joe Biden, had put in a black cardboard box located behind a classic Corvette parked in the family garage that was being inspected by associates of his son, Hunter Biden. The Justice Department wanted to claim, well, he's an old man, so there's no point in going after him. Well, guess what? He was a year younger at the time they made that decision than Donald Trump is right now. So what are we talking about? Hypocrisy, and they're lying, and they're acting like another socialist workers' party, the National Socialist Workers' Party, known as by its Germanic acronym, NAZI, Nazi.
Including the decision to bring charges against President Trump. Our investigation developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in criminal activity.
Stop. Bullshit. You might have been able to prove certain facts beyond a reasonable doubt. He doesn't deny them, but the truth of the matter is it's a matter of operation of law. You are a liar. You cannot prove that the law applies to these circumstances beyond a reasonable doubt to a moral certainty. That's up to a judge and jury, you incompetent idiot.
Based on the same facts today, I would do so regardless of whether that president was a Democrat or a Republican. No one should be above the law in this country, and the law required that he be held to account, so that is what I did. To have done otherwise on the facts of these cases would have been to shirk my duties as a prosecutor and as a public servant, of which I had no intention of doing.
You weren't under the ruling. How about that one? Your appointment was marginal and not in compliance with the law.
So real quick, Hillary, right? Non-Democrats on the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee voted with Republicans Wednesday to recommend holding former President Clinton in contempt of Congress for defying a subpoena to testify as part of the panel's investigation into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. 3 Democrats sided with Republicans in voting for a separate measure to recommend also holding former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in contempt. Their votes underscore the continued pressure Democrats are under to remain consistent in their calls for transparency and accountability in the Epstein case, no matter the person or the party affiliation or the dire consequences. The contempt reports now head to the House floor, assuming the measures advanced, the administration could choose to prosecute the former first couple, which could lead to potential jail time for one or both. For Hillary, it could mark the accumulation of President Donald Trump's decade-long hostility towards his 2016 political rival, who he repeatedly called to put behind bars for using a private email server while leading the State Department. No witness, not a former president or a private citizen, may willfully defy a duly issued congressional subpoena without consequences. This is said by the House Oversight Committee Chair, James Comrie. But that is what the Clintons did, and that is why we are here today. So anything you want to briefly say on that? You know, they wanted to be behind closed doors. They didn't want it to be, they wanted it to be public. And I think Congressional hearing wanted it to be behind closed doors or something like that. But are they above the law?
They're not.
So what happens next with them?
They could have appeared and declined to testify or give evidence on the basis of the Fifth Amendment, which happens all the time. They could have had attorneys, and I'm sure they have access to those who could have made appearance on their behalf. They basically, what was going on is they might have kept the evidence in secret or sequestered, restricted for purposes of confidentiality, but the Congress of the United States has the authority to look into that. They issued a subpoena. The subpoenas weren't even challenged. So you have a problem. I mean, the best step probably will be to issue an apology, but you have a problem in that both respondents either are now or have been active attorneys in Arkansas.
Okay.
So what is your excuse about ignorance of the law?
Right.
You know, it's one thing if you're talking to Joe Blow, who works in a factory and that's all he's done all his life, and he doesn't know much about law. He's got a high school education, if you can call what he got with that, because he wasn't paying much attention. It's a whole different order of thing when somebody has got a doctorate of law from Yale Law School, both of them. That's where they met each other. And after you get a law degree, a doctorate of law degree from this kind of major law school, and you become licensed attorneys, you can't go around talking about you were ignorant of the law. Because what is the old saying? Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Right.
We need that music right now.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Injustice for All.